Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar hosted by REMS Hospitality. Thank you very much for being here today. My name is Carmen and I'll be leading this presentation. Before we start, I would like to explain what we do at REMS. REMS is a company created to help restaurants grow revenue by providing benchmarking data and revenue management tools. In the next 20 minutes, we'll look at why restaurants should become more revenue driven. We'll also cover the current issues of why revenue management is not a big thing for restaurants yet, and we will offer some solutions to this. If you have any questions during the webinar, please ask. I would like to start with this quote. Remember to keep a close eye on your market and never treat customers as if they belong to you. They belong to the world. This is the first piece of advice I would like you to take. It is becoming harder than ever to retain loyalty in this globalized world. Even companies like Netflix are losing many customers to other streaming platforms. Entertainment is constantly changing, and we must ensure we don't take for granted what we have. Understanding the competition is also more critical than ever in such an aggressive marketplace. Why is revenue management so crucial in restaurants? What are revenue management techniques, and why are restaurants not aware of it as much as other industries are? So the first question is, why is revenue management essential for restaurants? Because restaurants, like other businesses, like hotels, cinemas or airlines, have a perishable inventory. So you would stop generating profit if you don't sell your seats. As there are heavy fixed costs involved in running these businesses, not managing capacities and pricing correctly can lead to serious challenges. Let's continue with looking at what revenue management techniques are. So these are techniques or actions to maximize revenue growth and profit by predicting consumer behavior, optimizing product or services, availability and leveraging price elasticity in the market. Essentially, revenue management is built around the concept of understanding how much demand is willing to pay for your services and what selling techniques you can use to maximize each unit. In restaurants, examples of these techniques could be adjusting menu pricing based on demand and competition, overbooking strategies, allocating reservations at different times, selecting different party sizes, understanding, for example, how well your tables are used. You could run a table utilization report. Also changes in the floor plan, how you price your private events, or if you apply any table supplement, your relationship with your third parties, etc. So you may wonder, how is it possible that revenue management has not progressed further when there are hundreds of ways to optimize restaurants? So why is it that restaurants are behind in revenue management tools, techniques, and labor? So revenue management is spread out among the entire organization and embedded within the operations. However, it is not done correctly and not considered necessary to spend resources and time on it. On top of that, it is challenging to implement and follow up strategically. That would involve having constant eyes on the market and breaking the current hierarchy of most restaurant groups. Some of these barriers are, unlike hotels and airlines, restaurant tables can be sold many times a day. So this is making more challenging to plan strategies. Restaurants have the flexibility to adjust their capacities, so we would say it is a semi-fixed inventory. You can't possibly build a hotel room every night, but you could squeeze a chair here or a table there. Some restaurants don't have standard tracking capabilities and are behind in some technology. There is also a lack of standardized revenue KPIs. By revenue KPIs, I mean occupancy. So occupancy means something different for each restaurant. And also it's difficult to calculate occupancy because in a hotel, if you would have 100 rooms and you sell 90, you could conclude you sold 90% of your hotel. Restaurants operate differently because they have different operating times, turn times. So to come up with a conclusive occupancy requires more effort and it's a bit more difficult. Spend per head is a global indicator, and then we have RevPAS. So RevPAS stands for revenue per available seat per hour, and this KPI is barely used. Restaurants don't look at market share or RevPAS. There are few revenue managers working in restaurants, no revenue management academies or studies to back this up. There are not many data analysts either. The industry moves fast and it's influenced by so many external events, and ROI is rarely calculated. Pricing doesn't change that often, and it is calculated chiefly based on food costs and margins. Lastly, I would say that restaurants often don't know who they compete against. So these are the main reasons I've gathered with time that aren't allowing revenue management to progress further within restaurants. So what is the main focus in restaurants to define success? Mainly food and beverage margins, payroll, guest satisfaction, labor, covers volume, sales, and ultimately EBITDA. Elements of the P&L, most of them. So if you notice, these elements are more towards the bottom line, not purely focusing on revenue, the top line. And because of this, the whole revenue strategy revolves around these internal factors instead of what the market offers and how we could match our resources with the demands of the marketplace. As I mentioned earlier, revenue management is done to a certain degree in restaurants. So, who is currently doing revenue management?
So you see each of these key players in restaurants are deciding again about key elements of revenue management, while in other industry in hotels, for example, the revenue manager will decide on pricing and will manage inventory and will determine where to push and decide on demand. So the question is this actually working? I guess it would if everybody had the same goals, which often is not the case. And I'm going to give you an example.
We have a reservation manager wanting to accommodate every possible reservation to hit targets, while the operation team might restrict the books to look after the service or staff. You may also have a marketing team launching campaigns on days the restaurant doesn't need it. On the other hand, the finance team decides on pricing without looking at the competition around. Chefs don't want to adjust the menu for whatever reason. There is a complete disconnection regarding how each department understands revenue and goals. How do we fix this? We need to start treating revenue as a unified engine where all the players in the organization understand what it means and why it is so important to pay attention. Revenue comes from the market, from customers. So in order to succeed, we need to focus in the market to generate more revenue. Who can act as a revenue leader in your organization? Anyone within the organization who has an analytical mindset and a strength to surpass the motions of running a restaurant. If your organization can afford it, you could hire a revenue specialist. A revenue manager can only be successful if it has accurate data in their hands. So the job of a revenue manager becomes way easier if that person is able to put data together and extract some conclusions. Somebody that is savvy with Excel or can put data together in a readable format will also be a potential candidate to look after all the revenue stream. We continue on this line talking about revenue management, and I would like to share with you the results of one survey I ran not that long ago. The question was, to all restaurants that I have access to, would you hire a revenue manager to help you with maximizing revenue and understanding the market better? 60% of the participants responded yes, 40% of them responded no. While, I would have expected more
yeses than nos. There's still a lot of work to do. I think the role of a revenue management is essential, especially in restaurants where demand and events and everything is changing so rapidly, and restaurants are impacted by external factors so much. Revenue specialists could assist restaurant groups with deciding what prices to put for the food items and beverage items, could definitely run precise competitive analysis, could utilize benchmarking data appropriately, and could definitely make sure the restaurant is in tune with what's happening, and we are channeling all our efforts to get the most out of it. We are next going to show you an example. This is a very basic example that illustrates how selecting different party sizes or different reservations booked via different channels, reservation channels, could impact the final revenue in your restaurant. The reason why I am doing this exercise is to give you awareness of how in some cases, like Saturdays on days or days where demand is higher, like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, or any events, you could plan your strategy and ensure you maximize the revenue that is coming from the demand. So we've got 90 seats. Our restaurant is made of 90 seats and is open for 10 hours and is located in the city center and offers Italian food. We've calculated the average spend per head. Average spend per head is £23, and prior to this exercise, we've run a report to understand what revenue a walk-in brings versus a reservation made online or on the phone. And also we know the spend per head of reservations made of 2s, 3s, 4s, etc. Imagine that it is a Saturday and you have I wouldn't say unlimited demand, but you have enough demand to choose from the following options 1, 2, and 3. Ideally, what we want to find is the perfect business mix for your restaurant to maximize the revenue. Option 1, you would sell 260 covers with 60% walk-ins and 40% reservations. And from the overall bunch of reservations, 40% of them would be parties of 2. The final revenue would be 7,194. Then we have option 2, same number of final covers, but this time we've chosen 60% of reservations online or made prior arrival and 40% walk-ins. And now 40% of all these reservations are made of parties of 4. You would get a revenue of 7,550. Option 3, 260 covers sold with 80% reservations and 20% walk-ins, and 50% of the total number of reservations is made of parties of 4. That would give you the highest revenue, 7,920. Now the question is, what option do I choose? Technically, if we were talking about revenue, maximizing and getting the highest revenue, everybody would go for option 3. But we need to bear in mind here that, as you can see from the example, that when we increase the reservations to 80%, unless you have the strongest brand awareness and you are able to capture all these reservations via your own channels, you are going to have to rely on a third party. So to give a more of a realistic scenario, 50% of those 80% reservations would come via a third party. This could be OpenTable, The Fork, TripAdvisor, or any other third party. So that has a fee, a cost associated, so you need to make sure you don't end up losing or not generating as much as you want because you have a lot of reservations assigned to your third parties. Calculate that. I would say something between option 2 and 3 would be the most optimal configuration or mix for your restaurant or for this restaurant that we are illustrating. I hope you found this exercise useful. We will be running plenty of these exercises during following webinars, and also if you access REM's hospitality website, at www.remshospitality.com. You will find plenty of material about revenue management and more exercises that can help you to boost your revenue and become more revenue management driven or savvy. Just before we finish, I would like you to practice something. This is very simple. It's just for you to gain awareness of who in your business is looking after these important revenue elements. We've talked about revenue management techniques, some the ones related to reservation channels. By channels, I mean what channels people use to book. It could be online, it could be phone, walk-ins, etc. Party size, what is your who decides in your organization how to set up the table configuration, capacity management, reservation lead times, who how far in advance reservations get open for people, events, who is pricing the event rooms if you have one at your restaurant, do you if there's any table supplement because you have nice views, or do you have some special tables that you want to charge a bit more, who is doing this. Also, who is in charge of deciding how many reservations comes every certain times. If you have somebody looking at the weather to obviously forecast better, if you get competitive analysis done and what restaurants you are choosing to compete against, customer types, disposable income, and so on. And then reporting comes at hand because it's very important for anyone within the restaurant or any other business to understand what's going on. So what reports can you access to understand your revenue drivers better? You could start by downloading a reservation report. I don't think it really matters where, if you are driven by revenue, and you want to figure out more about this, you could ask someone to run a reservation report from you if you don't have access, and then you could simply build a following report showing reservations by party size, by channel, and by time. And then you can start gaining some understanding of how demand comes into your restaurant. And then during following webinars, we'll try to assign some monetary value to this and then come up with the ideal business mix for your restaurant. This is it. Thank you ever so much for attending this webinar. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I did a good job. And finally, I would like to talk again about REMS. Obviously, this webinar is sponsored by REMS Hospitality. I invite you to sign up to REMS and get more revenue management techniques and competitive benchmarking to start your revenue management discovery. See you around.